Welcome to today's video, guys, which is part 3 in Top Home Miners 2026, where we're going to be looking at miners over 100 terahash per second. So as you can clearly see on the screen here, on the left-hand side, we've got the worksheet, which we've had on both previous episodes. Again, this is part of the Get Mining Metrics workbook, which you can access for just $15 per month as part of your Alchemist tier entitlements through Patreon. On the right hand side, we've got the miners listed that we're going to be covering. But let's dive in and have a look. So we've got here Antminer S21 Hydro available from mineshop.eu. So at the moment that's coming in at around in USD $2,591 for 332 terahash. So obviously these are serious big boy miners that you would potentially be making a decent return on in the right market conditions, which is not necessarily true at the moment. So we'll also cover that in the video as well. Now, next up, you've got S19 XP Hydro. That's coming in at around $1,823 for 257 terahash. Then next, you've got the Avalon A15, the 200 terahash version. Now, that price is a little lower, coming in at $1,760 for around 200 terahash. Then you've got the Whatsminer M66S immersion version, so not fan cooled, but immersion cooling. Now that's coming in, as we can see on screen here, $3,000 for 270 terahash. So quite a jump there from the last one. And the final miner here, as you can see, is the BitSeer Seal miner. This gets great reviews online, guys. 260 terahashes per second, coming in at $4,064. Now, let's just go through some of the specs as well, guys. So the efficiency, clearly here, you've got a little bit of a range, kind of 5 joules per terahash range from, let's say 15, call it 15, up to 21, 6 joules. Now, you can see the hash rate as well does vary. So we've got the lower entrant here at 200 terahash is the Avalon A15. And the highest rated one is the S21 Hydro at 332 terahashes. Now, if we can see how that breaks down here with cost as well, you've got the highest cost one is the BitSeer Seal miner for 260 terahash. So maybe not the best return, given that it's only 260 terahash compared to the S21. Okay, and that's reflected in the cost per terahash column here, as you can see with the purple gradient bars. That's coming in the highest. You've got the S21 Hydro at the lowest there. So how does this break down in terms of rankings, right? So let's have a look. Now, ranking by cost, obviously the winner there is the Avalon, that's the lowest, but as we know, it's not the whole story. So you've got ranked by efficiency, the winner there is the BitSeer. Ranking by cost, the winner there is the S19 XP Hydro. Now, their total scores, to be fair, there's not much in it, but there is a clear winner. And that winner is the S21 Hydro. So you're getting quite high efficiency, quite high cost per terahash, or, if we say a low cost per terahash, a better terahash, or the best cost per terahash in dollars, right? That's the best way to say that. And then, considering it's ranked number 1, it's nice to see it would also earn you the most in daily earnings, right? So you've got this daily earnings column here. So under current market conditions, even when we know the price isn't great, that's going to cost you $10.41. Sorry, that's going to give you a returning daily earnings of $10.41. Now, ignore these electricity costs here because we're going to change them. If you're running one of these big boy miners, it's either because you have got access to residential 240 volts electric and you've got a decent electricity rate, and also you might have a shed, an outhouse, and a garage where you can put these, so you're containing the noise and the heat that these generate. Now let's change the daily electricity rate to make it something that would be financially viable. So again, we go down to this sheet here, daily earnings helpers. We're going to hit that. Now, I think this miner becomes profitable at 7 cents per kilowatt hour. So let's plug that in and let's go back to the table. And yeah, what we're going to see, so your daily electricity cost is going to be lower than your daily earnings, meaning you're in profit, right? Not true with all the miners, but for this one it is, and we'll see what the other miners would have to go to in a second. So if we just hit right, you're going to scroll right, you've then got your profits here. Now, as you can see, super wafer thin margins, guys, at the moment. Wafer thin. So the current climate for Bitcoin mining financially is not great. We know that. Hash rate continues to rise, while issuance value has taken a nosedive with the current price falling off a cliff, right? So we were at a nearly 50% from drawdown from the all-time high in October of 123,000. Price did go to 60,000 last week. So then the issuance value, which your hash price is based on, has absolutely imploded in the process, right? And that doesn't mean these miners are going to stay there forever at this profitability racing, right? As soon as issuance value kicks off again, and it might go back to 40 million, 45 million, 50 million, happy days, you're then going to enter a much more profitable region for these miners. So let's move on to the next column. You've got break-even electricity price, right? This is super helpful. And also, you can see there on screen, payback period in years. So you can see in the current economic climate, these miners are almost not viable to run. Yes, you're going to make a small daily profit, but are you ever going to pay the unit off? You know, potentially no. But let's just see how these values would play out, right, guys? If we just play with the electricity rate, and you can see here, the break-even electricity price, 8 cents, 6, 7, 7, and 9 cents. And again, as I said in the previous episode, I'm going to add to this list throughout the weeks, months, and the years moving forward. So I know and I understand this is not an exclusive, exhaustive list. We've just done the top 5 listed here purely to show how the worksheet operates and how you can use it to your own advantage. By the time you download this, I'm sure there will be many more on here. Okay, let's just play with these electricity figures. So let's say, for example, you had a huge good fortune to live in an area where you could get 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Let's see how that affects the profitability. So you can then see a massive jump, right? So you're now making the kind of numbers that you would normally expect to see, right? On these kind of miners, and you can just see how the payback period in years absolutely collapses to something that is much more palatable. So if you bought one of these miners, you know, at that kind of electricity rate with daily issuance where it is at the moment, even down in that region, you would pay that unit off within 1.12 years, which, given that they may have a lifespan of 3, 4, 5, 6 years tops, right, before their efficiency makes them not unprofitable, pay it back within 1 year, and then you really are moving into profit. These are the kind of figures that you want to be seeing. So again, I hope you found this one really useful. This was just really an introduction, into these so-called big boy miners that you could go out and get and purchase. If you are fortunate enough to live in an area where both you have a decent electricity rate per kilowatt hour in cents, and you also have the space to contain the heat and the noise in your own home, and you've got access to a 240 volt electrical outlet, fantastic, happy days. You could then go ahead and run one of these, right? So, yeah, again, this list will be added to in the future. There certainly is more to come. Okay, guys, so as we saw in the previous segment, we touched on each of these miners here. Okay, so we've got 6 at the moment: the S21 Hydro, the BitSeer Miner A2, the FutureBit, the Avalon A15, the Whatsminer Immersion, and the MINERS S19 XP Hydro. Now, if you just order them by Hashrate, which is nice and easy on the table, as you can see there. So we're going to look at the S21 Hydro first. Okay, so it's the highest hash rate of 332 terahash a second. Okay, not bad on the efficiency, coming in at 17 watts per terahash. Okay, cost of $2,695 as well, which gives it a cost per terahash a second in dollars of $8.12. Okay. Now, again, as we covered in the previous 2 episodes of this 3-part series already this week, what's the best metric to base our decisions on in terms of ranking them to purchase these kinds of miners, right? And these kinds of miners are a step up clearly from the bit axes in episode 1 or part 1 and the home miners, the space heaters in part 2, right? Because now what we're really going to be looking at is we're far more concerned with both return on investment and the payback period in years, i.e. when have we paid off the investment and when do we really start turning a profit in terms of making Bitcoin past paying back what we've paid out for the miner, right? So that story starts here with hash rate, efficiency, cost per terahash a second in dollars, right? So then, as we've covered in the previous parts 1 and 2, we then get this ranking, guys, okay? So we know as well, that's not the whole story, okay? So we can rank by terahash, like we've done there. We can rank by efficiency to say, okay, well, the BitSeer is by far the most efficient out of all of these 6, so great, let's buy that one. But no, that's not the whole story, because that's not only is that the most expensive miner out of all these, it's also not the most powerful, so that doesn't make sense either, right? And then we might say, okay, well, surely cost per terahash a second in dollars, that's surely the end-of-line metric, as it were, to base our decision on. And it's a really great one to go by, because obviously you're then looking at how many terahash a second are you getting for the total cost that you're paying out, or what's the cost of that 1 terahash. And as you can see there, the miner that comes in the best is the S19 XP Hydro at $7.09, closely followed by the S21 Hydro at $8.12, and then the Avalon A15 200 terahash version at $8.80. So as you can see as well, these miners, as we said earlier, are clearly a step up from the ones in part 1 and part 2, because if you look at where most of these miners are coming in, they're just under or just over single digits, right? Or are in single digits. So if we look at the ones under 100 terahash, these space heaters, none of them are in single digit territory, right? And there's a good reason for that, because you're getting a better price the more you pay for the terahash you get back. I hope that makes sense. Now, if we then say, okay, well, this isn't the end-of-line metric to look at either. Let's look at choosing them by their rank. Surely that's a good metric, right? So we've got rank by cost, rank by efficiency, and rank by cost per terahash a second in dollars. So, again, we could rank them by cost, and the Avalon A15 200 terahash comes out on top in cost. So, could we buy that one? Well, it's not the most efficient. It's not the most powerful. Okay. And it doesn't have the best cost per terahash a second in dollars either. Same story goes for efficiency. Same story goes, we've already covered, rank by cost, terahash a second in dollars. So, okay, you might say, what's the point in having the ranking system then? How can we really decide which is the best miner for us? And that's going to become clear as we scroll along here, guys. So we've got 3 miners in first place, which is the S19 XP, the S21 and the A15 200. So as you'll see as I reveal the next column, they are ranked equally first place. And you might think, surely the story stops there. This is going to be our end-of-line metric. We can now choose our miner. But that's not the case, because if you do that, what are you basing your decision on other than pure personal preference, which is influenced by, you might say then, okay, well, out of these 3, that one's the cheapest. Surely that's the best. I'm going to get that one. Don't do that. You'll end up in a mess. So if we then look at this, so we've got daily earnings now, guys, okay? So you would have thought, surely the miner that earns the most is going to be the one that I should go for. Not the whole story again. So we go right and we reveal daily electricity cost. Okay. Now, this is taken from obviously the watts that it consumes. Okay, so that's easy to work out, multiplied by a per kilowatt electric rate of 6 cents per kilowatt hour. Okay, this is what these figures are based on. And as you're going to see in a second, that's the figure, or near close to the figure, that you would need to turn a profit on per day with running these miners, okay, in the moment. So if we just reveal the next column, as you'll see, based on a 6 cents per kilowatt hour electricity rate, you then get a daily profit. And then you might think, okay, well, let's order it by the miner that gives me the biggest daily profit. Okay, so wow, surely it's the BitSeer Seal Miner A2 that gives me $2.69 per day. That has the highest profit margin out of all these. Again, don't do that. You will end up in a mess. So what ultimately we're looking at, guys, is not this one here. There is another column after this, but this one is interesting nonetheless. Break-even electricity price. What's the break-even point that you would need to run these miners at a profit? This is very, very, very helpful, very insightful. Now, as you can almost see here, there is one column to the right of this, which ultimately is your end-of-line metric to base your decision on, and certainly the one that I would be using. However, I would pair that up with this one, because you know, if you've got access to an electricity rate at or below the break-even price, fingers crossed moving forward as conditions improve or macro conditions improve for mining, you know you're going to be able to turn a profit with the miner before you even buy it, right? So I can't overstate that enough. That is key in terms of making a decision. So break-even electricity price basically tells you guys the maximum electricity price per kilowatt hour the miner can tolerate before it stops being profitable. So which is best? A miner with a high break-even electricity price or a miner with a low break-even electricity price? Well, you can probably already work out which that is by looking at the color map for this column, right? So miners with a higher threshold, a higher break-even electricity price, are miners that basically can survive more expensive electricity rates. Okay, so obviously on this list, the miner with the highest break-even electricity ceiling or price is the BitSeer at 8.961 cents. So let's say your electricity rate is variable and it starts off at 6 cents, maybe goes to 6.5, 7, 7.5, 8. You get the point by looking at this column here. If you had the BitSeer Seal Miner, that is the miner which can survive those price fluctuations in electric if your deal isn't locked in, which isn't the case for a lot of people. Most of us are probably on rates that are maybe fixed for minimum term, 12 months, but ultimately after that subject to prices established at a higher level than your electricity provider. So again, yeah, so the BitSeer here would be basically the king for break-even electricity price. It can survive those fluctuations and still turn a profit, right? Whereas, let's say, if you were looking at the Avalon A15, so that's locked in at, you've got a price, break-even electricity price, of 6.9 cents. So if it goes above that, you're going to be at a loss. Obviously, it's not what you want. You would not be in profit earning or mining on that miner. And then similarly for the S19 XP Hydro at 6.27 cents. If your electricity rate goes above that, that's bad news, right? So think of it like this. If miner A breaks even at 10 cents a kilowatt hour, and miner B breaks even at 7 cents per kilowatt hour, miner A can still make more money in more places, but miner B becomes unprofitable much sooner. So effectively, miner A is more robust, it's more future-proof, and it's less sensitive to break-even electricity price jumps, okay? So I hope that was really clear. You want to be choosing a miner with the highest break-even electricity ceiling that you can possibly get, but also considering all of the other factors that we've talked about throughout the video. Okay, so then let's reveal the final end-of-line column, right, guys, which is the payback period in years. So look at this. Now, as you can see here, probably before I even read it, you can see the colors. They're drawing your eyes' attention to them before I even give you the numbers. So let's order these miners by the payback period in years from smallest to largest, because at the end of the day, that is what we want. Now, before we go through these, remember, as macroeconomic conditions improve for Bitcoin and the price increases over the years, your daily profit and your payback period in years are dynamic. So they will change, your daily profit will increase, and your payback period in years will reduce and come down as the Bitcoin price rises. Okay, so these are not locked in, they're not set in stone, they are dynamic, bear that in mind, but they're a good starting point, obviously used as a foundation for this episode today. So payback period in years here, the lowest one is the S21 Hydro, which we've got on the right hand side here through mineshop.eu, 2,695. Right, so all things considered, that would be the one or the winner out of all of these miners. So we've got 6 in total, right? And we've already covered, it just happens to be the miner with the highest hash rate. The efficiency is pretty decent, okay? In terms of cost out of all of these, it's middle of the road. It's not the most expensive. It's not the least expensive, okay? And then cost per terahash a second, not the winner, but still pretty decent nonetheless. $8.12 is what you're paying for each terahash of that unit, right? Ranked by cost 4, ranked by efficiency 3, ranked by cost per terahash a second in dollars 2, total score of 9 equal first place. Daily earnings 1041, daily electricity cost 813, daily profit 228. Break-even electricity price, okay, not bad, right? So effectively 7.6 cents. And then payback period in years, it has the lowest payback period, which at the moment is 3.2 years. Now, in terms of final rankings for these miners on this list, obviously the S21 Hydro, as we've already covered, would give you the best ROI. It has the lowest payback period in years, as we can clearly see from this column here. Now, the best efficiency is the BitSeer miner, again, as we can see there. But as we've already covered, that doesn't equal the best return on investment because it is the most expensive. Now, the best budget option would clearly be the Flu miner. It's important to note as well, right? So as you see the Flu miner here on the screen on the right, this is something that would work on home residential electricity. You're not going to need 3-phase commercial electric points to make this work, which is great, right? So bit of a game changer, I suppose, in terms of home mining, a miner over 100 terahash that you could plug and play easily inside your own home. Yes, obviously, it's going to emit more heat and noise, but clearly that is something that you would need to make your mind up over whether that is suitable for you. With the S21E being a hydro, if you know anything about mining, you can probably already work out, because there's no fans, effectively, much, much, much quieter. Okay, and it's not going to emit as much heat as well. If you can stretch and your budget does go that far, this is the one I'd recommend by far, because as we've already previously seen, not only does it have the highest hash rate, has a decent efficiency, but it also has the lowest payback period in years. It's going to get you across that finish line the quickest in terms of them being able to turn a true profit on your investment. Now, key takeaways. S21 Hydro is covered throughout as the best miner in the entire group. Efficiency alone doesn't determine ROI. Watch out for the S19 XP Hydro trap. Okay, because it's terrible payback in the long run. Yes, they're cheap, because I would say almost nobody wants them, right? The efficiency rating is going to kill you in terms of the payback period. Okay, the Canon A15 is cheap, but it's underwhelming compared to the others. Blue Miner is efficient, but on a commercial scale, it might be too small. So if you are restricted to residential home power and you can't have 3-phase power, this might be the one to go for. So some of the key takeaways from this table as well, guys, just to kind of bear in mind moving forward when you are using it to base your decisions on for purchasing your equipment, the real insight is efficiency equals payback, right? So the table proves something important. Efficiency only matters if the miner is priced correctly, right? As we can see from these two columns here. So you might have the BitSeer, Seal Miner A2, lowest efficiency on the list, right? But the highest price. So you really are overpaying for that efficiency when you could have something equally as efficient for half the price. Okay, it has half the terahash rating. Obviously, this information is all here for you to make and base your decisions on. And at the end of the day, it's what suits you. Everyone has their own budget. We're all constrained by that. Probably very few of you watching this episode are millionaires who don't have to worry about what you're paying out for your equipment or are price agnostic, to use that term. So at the end of the day, it's what is good for you. What suits your situation, your financial situation. Have you got the space to accommodate these? Can you deal with the noise and the heat that they emit? And then also, what are your long-term goals? What are you really looking to achieve with these? So bear that in mind when you're using all this information to hand to make your decisions with. Really hope you enjoyed that episode, guys. If you've got any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below or hit me up on X. I'm always on there. Thanks for watching. Until the next episode, stay ahead, stay decentralized. Bye for now. Okay, guys, so just a short segment now to round off this video really briefly, and we're going to look at Founding 50. So, what's that? Now, if you're lucky enough to be watching this video before the 30th of April 2026, there's still time to get in, guys, okay? The first 50 Patreon subscribers will receive exclusive benefits that no other Patreon member will receive access to. Remember, the Kerner Bitcoin Patreon model is capped at 1,000 spaces. So if you are lucky enough to be one of the first to sign up, no one else will ever have this apart from the first 50 patrons. Now we've got a clear list here, guys. It's a phenomenal value proposition. You don't even have to go on to one of the higher tiers. You can start at Alchemist at $15 and then work your way up from there if you want to. Now, the jewel in the crown of the benefits, guys, is our private sovereign solo mining pool. Now, it's going to be 0% fees. Okay, full block reward shared, It is true decentralized solo mining. This is decentralized as you can get, pretty much. Now, we're going to have our own mining backend that handles this. Your credentials will be tier gated through Patreon. That's what you'll use to connect to the mining pool. So it means only 50 people can ever connect to this solo mining pool. Okay, if that wasn't enough, you're going to have 10 bonus UTXO metrics, 10 bonus Bitcoin price metrics. You're going to get exclusive Founding 50 merch pack. So a Kerner Bitcoin sticker set, a branded Kerner Bitcoin coin, only 50 will be issued. You'll get early beta test access to any workbooks, any data drops moving forward. You guys will be the one and only members to get early access. You're also going to get a unique Founding 50 Discord badge and channel as well, as you can clearly see here. Founding 50 patrons, and for the solo mining pool, exclusive access to this channel only. No other member for our Patreon model will have access to these two channels, just you guys. Okay, you'll also get priority voting rights. You can shape the future path for Kerner Bitcoin, help us in our decisions moving forward. You'll also get your name on a wall of honor in the credits on our videos as a scrolling montage. So again, just incredible value for money here, guys. As it says, perks are a lifetime lockout. Hold them forever. No other Patreon member will ever get these. Again, sign up today, secure your spot for the Founding 50, and let's go on this journey together.